Hey everybody, I'm Kim Bourgeois Landry, and I'm the Wonky Quilter. I'm so glad to have you with me today. I'm so sorry for the people who watch me regularly. Thank you, and I'm so sorry that I haven't been here since the middle of January. I think my last little video was, I think, the 17th or 18th of January, and February and March, let's be honest, they've been weird. Every time I have taped several videos, and when I want to post them the next day, the world has changed already. And I'm like, well, that's like not good information and blah, blah, blah. And, so let's just get down to what it is, the coronavirus. I wonder if maybe I have not had anything to say over the last couple of months, so I kept just erasing videos. But as a type 1 diabetic who is real close to age 60, real close, I'm right up, smudging up against it. Stay your butts home. The governor, I'm speaking from the United States of America. Not everybody watching lives here in the United States. Not everybody watches that lives here in Louisiana. I'm going to go by what my governor said, which is be a good neighbor. You may be healthy. You may not be at risk. You may never come in contact with it. But be a good neighbor to people in your community or people that you may come in contact with that would be at risk. I am social distancing. I'm in quarantine. Let's just call it that. I'm a little bit afraid. I'm not panicky. I kind of think that I'm going to be healthy through this whole thing. I don't think I'll come in contact with it, but I think, at least here in America, the land of plenty, I wonder if maybe we're having a harder time accepting that this is an actual global pandemic, because those kind of things don't happen here. And maybe we're having a hard time seeing or accepting or acknowledging that something could affect our health and our livelihoods and the way that we live our lives. It's totally out of our control. It's like being attacked on our own soil. The last time I felt like this was 9/11. Just something strange and unusual and horrific, and I didn't know how to deal with that. I just kept saying, this can't be real. I mean, is this really happening? Well, guess what? We're not immune to pandemic conditions. But what we can do is be quick, just be highly intelligent and quick and responsive and listen to everything that the president, the governor, the mayor, the head of staff in our local hospitals, the doctors, the nurses, the teachers, the principals say that we should be doing. And not just take it as, they're just being overprotective, or they're just trying to shut down the government or whatever it is. This is not what's happening. This is happening across the globe. This isn't a political thing in the United States of America. No matter where you sit on what side or what your opinion is, this is not about politics. Although politics does get involved in it, it's not what a pandemic is. And I'm hoping that we will all really, starting today, Sunday, March 15th, the Ides of March are upon us. Okay, that's kind of scary sounding, isn't it? But the fact is, we need to start now. really not only taking care of ourselves, but thinking about other people in our communities. And of course, we have our children and our little grandbabies to occupy and entertain and to keep teaching in the next 30 days. Almost all of the schools here in America are closed down, or at least that's how it comes off to me. We're closed down here in Louisiana. So I know my daughter is looking up ways that she can keep educating her children, and they're going to be with me for a week and her other grandmother, their other grandmother the next week, and with Lauren one week, and my daughter and her husband will both be able to, stay home some of the time. I don't know if they will be quarantined. Excuse me, cold tea. Washable straw. Washable straw. Keeping myself hydrated. Okay. Now, I guess I'm off of that a little bit. Oh, I'd like to say, I just watched a really cute video. Not cute. I don't know. It was a good video on YouTube. And the name of the channel is Kelly Does Her Thing. And she has a channel where she just talks about her life in general, which is how I got started watching it, because my channel's somewhat similar to that. So, I'm kind of learning how she does her thing. And she had a very good and really clearly spoken video on how we should be thinking about this time when we're all kind of self-quarantining and quarantined and social distancing and things that we can do. So watch her video on YouTube. Kelly Does Her Thing. It was very good. Also, there are lots of things. I'm a girl who knows a lot about social distancing. It's kind of my jam because I have become so accustomed to and enjoy my quiet one-on-one time at home by myself. The vast majority of my time in a 24-hour day is spent alone in silence with my earphones on. That's not in silence. Podcasts, radio talk shows, you name it. Whatever subject matter you're interested in, or even if it's something that you just saying, what could I learn something about? I'm not necessarily interested in, I don't know, some kind of particular fishing, but you might find a podcast with somebody who makes custom lures that you really appreciate the art of it as you're listening to a podcast about it. It really can make your day move by quickly, and to have you not feeling so trapped as you may feel alone in your home or just with your family. There are things set up for children. I notice that when we take our grandchildren out for rides, sometimes we don't get out of the car. We'll ride to another town, like let's say around here, like Franklin or something, just ride through the countryside. And I will put on a children's story that on the radio, and they're kind of a captive audience, and they would never just sit and listen to a story. They need to be moving, they need to be grooving, there are things to do, there are things to conquer. But in their car seats, they were so interested in it, and they were like, well, if we turn the car off now, can we still hear this story? And I'm like, yeah, it's going to stop right here and we'll get back. And they were both just enchanted. So you can take your children and grandchildren for rides, put something very interesting on for them to listen to. They may develop a new relationship with their ears, with listening to a story, as opposed to just reading or having a story told to them or watching it on TV. Of course, there are games and puzzles. We have tons of puzzles here that have never been opened. I have tons of paints. My husband had to get out yesterday. He didn't have to, but he went to buy plants because that's another thing. Everybody's yard's going to be pretty this summer because people will be working in their own yards trying to beautify, be outside and get fresh air and play with flowers and the dirt and plants. And my husband is a food grower. So I was like, you better get out there and plant us some spring vegetables because we may need them this spring. This summer, I mean, the good fresh vegetables. So quarantines are not tragic. We just have to learn maybe to redefine what staying at home means, okay? Check your museums online. Lots of really great museums do virtual tours. I did not know this. As I was researching something to talk about, like what could we do, I was like, the Guggenheim, the really fine museums that I haven't traveled to, we're going to be doing some virtual tours. That's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to discover new musicians online. I'm going to take quilting classes. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm taking some quilting classes. Also, quilters, sewers, makers in general don't really feel so panic-stricken about being stuck at home, because at home is where a hobby is, I talked to both of my quilt stores yesterday. I dropped a machine off. A little Featherweight came in the mail for me yesterday. Kianga from Florida, who I was just in a G-spin class with, sent me a little Featherweight. It doesn't have the box. It doesn't have all the extra things, but somebody had given it to her to use in some of her classes. She's an artist, and she teaches people and does workshops. And so look up Kianga Art, Kiangaart, Kianga Art. She does some really, really groovy things. And she just boxed that little machine up and sent it to me. Now, it turned on. I could hear the motor, but I couldn't get the needle to move, and I could see there was rust on a lot of parts. Whoever had sent it to her, it had last been serviced in the 70s, I think. And it's from the 50s. I looked up where it came from. Elizabethport or Elizabethtown, New Jersey is where it was made, but it needed a lot of work. So my husband went and dropped it off in Broussard at A&A Sewing, and they have a father-son team that does their machine work there. So I think it's about a 10-day turnaround. I cannot await to see if this machine is a viable machine. And those little singers were workhorses, so I have a feeling, it cost a little penny, but I have a feeling it's going to be a good machine. So one of these days, many, many years from now, when I leave the earth plane, I'm going to have a Featherweight for both of my granddaughters. So when they are here, I'm changing the subject. Kianga, thank you so much. I am sending you some, I don't know that I could have anything to send you as good as a Featherweight sewing machine. But I am going to do my best to send you something that's going to delight you just as much as this little rusty machine delighted me. Thank you so much. Also, the last couple of weeks, okay, I'm getting off of Corona. I'm getting on to the good stuff now. The last month has been Kim's month of receiving Featherweight. Do you see this beautiful plant right here? It's gorgeous. One big bloom that went out to about right here from the plant. It was huge, the biggest one. Got broken off of it by the hubs. He's such a good guy. I don't know how he managed it. He knocked the whole plant off. He hit it somehow, and the plant fell down and broke a big stem off. It's still blooming in the kitchen. I have it in water, but my friend Annie, who's a florist, gave me this beautiful plant. Even this, I know she picked that especially for me. She gave it to me just because she loves me. This container right here has eyeballs on it. It has all a mystical look to it. She was like, I was thinking of you when I saw that, because I am just all about that. I got that beautiful, big, big plant. I mean, it's like 3 feet tall. And a featherweight. And then I got this. Do you see this beautiful piece right here? Angela. That was also Angela that sat in the other corner in the church at the G's Bin retreat. She was sitting in a corner, all quiet. She hardly talked to anybody. I mean, she was very friendly, but she was about her business. She was sewing. She smiled at people. She was just sewing. She put out work like a boss. I don't know. Well, the very first day she made this, I wish you could see the details. If you can, enlarge it, it's really remarkable. And she didn't like it. That's a whole nother story. We don't know why she didn't like it. But I just kept making over it. And she was like, listen, everybody keeps coming up and saying they like it. If one more person says they like it, I'm sending it home with them. I was like, I like it. And we started laughing and, da-da-da. She had it hanging up on the wall. And she was working on other things that were beautiful also. Well, the next day, I was up doing something, I don't know what, and came and sat at my desk, and there it was, folded up on my sewing desk, my sewing table. So I went over and I said, okay, I know you're kidding me. This is really remarkable, and you should not just be, like, willy-nilly giving it away. And she was like, no, I don't want it. I would have cut it up, and I was like, well, why don't you do that? It's all good fabric. And she was like, no, I mean, I just want to give it to you. And she was kind of aggravated. She was like, okay, just let me give it to you. I was like, okay, yeah, I love it. So I'm totally going to sandwich this baby up while I am social distancing or being quarantined, depending on what comes out on Monday. Today's Sunday, March 15th. The Ides of March. And I'm going to hand quilt this, and it's going to hang in my kitchen. Although, man, doesn't it look beautiful right here in my sewing room? I have it clipped with these little clips. I have it clipped to a piece of folk art. I don't know if you know, it usually has flowers. There's a lot of really pretty blues and reds and pinks and greens in it by John Dagg, who is a folk artist, well-known folk artist in my area. And it's a square too. And I just clipped it up there just for a difference, just for a change, and to show y'all. She just gave it to me. It's totally going to hang in my kitchen. Or maybe the folk art. Maybe it's time for the folk art piece by John Dagg to hang in my kitchen for a while. And maybe this will hang in here because it sure does look pretty. I have been, first I have to say, it was a 5-day class. Half a day Wednesday through Sunday. Okay, I'm completely fine, so don't worry about that. Oops, dropping things. In Canton, Mississippi, which is about maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, I would say, I think north, maybe northeast of Jackson, Mississippi. The G's Bin retreat. Marianne Petway, who I just adore, and China Petway, who I just adore. These two women are phenomenal. If you can go to Mississippi at the Grace Conference Center. It's an Episcopalian retreat center. It's called Rose Hill. I don't know what Rose Hill is exactly, except it's where my grandparents lived in Virginia. So that's how I knew I was supposed to go to this when I found out it's called the Rose Hill. But it's the Gray Conference Center. They do it, I think, like 4 times a year, maybe even 5, depending on how the year is going. Great rooms, they're not fancy. It is a retreat center, so it's not luxurious, but it's clean, and it is cottage feeling. The food was extraordinary. Now, I mean, I have celiac disease, and I'm allergic to lots of preservatives and stuff. It was a very fresh kitchen. the man who was cooking, the chef, was, I think, classically trained. I don't want to repeat what somebody told me because somebody told me he was trained at the Cordon Bleu. I don't know if that's true. But his food was beautiful to look at, and it all tasted really, really good. It was delicious. And he worked in what's called a no-waste kitchen. So, like, we had big chunks of roast one night, and then the next day, maybe there was chopped beef that was hot to go on a cold salad at lunch, that kind of thing. He made huge platters of vegetables that I don't know that anybody else had the same reaction to it. You know, I love to talk about food. But when you see so much of one thing, it feels like wealth. So a huge platter of asparagus with, you know, some kind of sauce and sunflower seeds that had been toasted. And I mean, a huge platter. It was just so full. And usually, even in fine dining, if you get asparagus with your steak or whatever, 3 stalks, that's what you get. You don't get much of it, just have a little taste of it. This was just like, oh my God, look, I can have as much as I want. Okay, you're not really going to eat that much, but it does something. It feels like it set a tone for everything you could possibly want was being delivered to you. That's kind of how I felt at the whole retreat. Let's start with the vegetables, made me feel that way. The big pot of hummus that was huge, like a baby could swim in it, of hummus that they brought into the church, which is where we were teaching, not actually into the chapel, but there was like a little kitchen area when you first walk into it. There's a lobby and a little kitchen area and some restrooms and some storage. And then you walk into the actual chapel. And in mid-afternoon, he would bring in sweets, you know, cookies or cakes or brownies or whatever. And then some fresh vegetables and hummus. And that was for people like me that couldn't, you know, I can't do all of that stuff. So the whole 4 nights felt like, I don't want to sound all religious, but it was like having a feast set before you. Do you know? It was just amazing. China Petway and Marianne Petway are not actually related. They just have the same last name. I don't even want to talk about how that happened, but they have the same last name. They come from the same tradition of, I'm going to call it a quilt language. And they are handing down to those who want to learn a freedom. Because really, they're not teaching you. They do. If you want to go and sit with them, I didn't do it this time because there were like 40 of us, and I've sat with them before, and I just wanted everybody to get their turn, you know. So both of them came and sat at my table for a while, and we chit-chatted, but they will show you anything you ask them to show you. They know it. But they kind of set a fence line to hold, you know, it's like they hold the energy of everything that was happening in that church, so that by not teaching with their mouths, they would wait for you to bring up a little jewel of what your favorite thing is about quilting or sewing, or something about where you started learning about stitching when you were a little girl. And then they would just kind of go with that. And what they taught you is to all of a sudden recognize what you already know, or that you need to follow your own direction. Like they would direct you to not be directed. You don't have to use a pattern. They don't sew crooked lines. They sew straight lines. They just might not be from left to right, or straight up and down. They may be diagonal. but they make sense from an art point of view. It's a very, very down-home, earthy, kind of folk art, primitive way of quilting that is high-end, high-level. It's art on high is what it is. I mean, you can look at it and say, dang, how can they make something that looks like it shouldn't make sense be perfect? There is a magic in it. And they just are like, well, we're just regular old people, stitch, stitch, stitch. And then they'll just break out in some old world gospel music, and they harmonize with each other, and they like chills. I don't have hair on the back of my neck, but I promise you it was standing up. I adore going to these get-togethers. The kind of women that they pull together is almost like, I want to say it's like, it's a kind of human being. It's not just women. There were, it's not just women. The two classes that I've been to before both had men in them. The kind of people that they draw to their classes, their non-class classes, their retreats, or what they are, their retreats. The kind of people that they call to their retreats are people who are very forward-minded. Like, they are thinking about what their future will be, but by accessing the past. They're not leaving it behind. They're going back to pick up the skills, the soul, the heartbeat, the drumbeat. It's enriching to your soul as much as it is to your quilting, sewing, stitching, making traditions, whatever it is that you love in your life. It enriches that, but it enriches your soul. And it changes the way that my mind thinks. It changes the way that my eyes experience art, the way I think about perfection, the way that I think about what feels good and feels right when I pick up a piece of fabric, instead of looking at it just intellectually. Although the work, the quilts that are on display, I think are very highly intellectual pieces. I'm just talking in circles because there's no explanation for it. It's one of those things that defies. It defies what mass consciousness believes or accepts or knows. That's all I can say. That's a whole lot, but that's all I can say about it. I am going to continue following them and studying after them, and at the same time, I'm going to do a few extra things too. I actually have bought a few patterns over the last few months. I discovered through my own process while I was at the school, because I started to feel real self-conscious at the end of the week. People were putting out really amazing pieces. And I was reworking the same little piece over and over and over again. And it's the kind of thing that brings me joy. It wasn't like I was dissatisfied with it, except when I looked up and it was show and tell, and I was like, damn, pardon my language. Oh my gosh. This person has 2 king-size quilt tops and 4 art pieces, and this person has da-da-da, and I was just reworking the same little piece over and over again. I was just like whistling while I work, cut that off, sew it back on the other side, put another piece here. I just kept working the same square over and over, and it became, and I got a feeling, an image in my head of a woman working dough for bread. And there, in doing that, it's a connection to your mother, to your grandmother, to the women from all time slamming on the table, just roll it. But you can overwork something and make it not good anymore. And that's the image that came to me. So I'm going to start showing some pieces, and I'm going to stop reworking and reworking and reworking. If I feel the need to rework something, I'm going to pick up a new piece of fabric and make a new block to look like the one that just came into my mind, instead of reworking the one that I just built to look like the new idea. Like, why didn't I think of that before? Just make a new block instead of reworking the block. And I will tell you, I did this. This is one of the little pieces I did. Is this right side up? Yeah. Okay. This stuff I did like in a flash. You know, this, I wanted to put this piece of fabric on here. I picked it up out of the center of the church was just filled with storage container after bucket after, big plastic container of fabrics, every kind. Most of it good quilting fabric, some of it a little chancy. There's this one piece of fabric that looked like this, okay? Nice stripe, has all the right colors. I bought these fabrics, this color peach I don't adore, but I brought it with me because I wasn't sewing with them here because it's not my favorite. So I thought if I bring all my least favorite colors, I will make something that I like because it'll be the fabric that I have. So that's what I did. And I found this piece of fabric and it went with it. But I didn't have enough of it. It was just a little piece. The only way that I could figure out how to frame it this side was to cut it up into 1,000,000 pieces and have them all going the wrong way. I couldn't put them on here with the stripe all going, in one way. There wasn't enough of the fabric. This took from like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I worked till 12:30 at night and didn't finish it till the next morning at about 8 or 9 o'clock. About 9 or 10 o'clock, I guess I should say. Will I ever do that again? Yes, I'm going to do it again. But I might be working with bigger pieces instead of little cuts like that big or that big. Or that big. That's what I'm talking about. I rework and rework and rework the same piece, and I'm not getting a better result after doing it. I'm just sewing. I'm going to start being more efficient and just saying, oh, I'm getting a different idea. Let me put this block away and start on a different block. And then, that's still working on the same project. That makes sense. Oh, this is another thing that I was gifted by the universe, kind of. Right before I left, I was one of the last 5 people there because I was on a car. A lot of the women left on a bus, like at 9 o'clock. That was a drama. Let's not get into it. They all got on their bus to go to the airport because, again, the G's Bin Quilters calls people in worldwide. It's like certain quilters just here. First, they get a feeling in their chest. Okay, I'm making all this up, but it sounds like a good story. They get a feeling in their chest. Then they start looking around to see, how can I study with these women? There's a way. At the Gray Conference Center in Canton, Mississippi. Ask for Ann. Ann, thank you so much. Thank you. She's amazing. So call the Gray Conference Center. Ask for Ann. She will set you up for one of these classes. I forgot what the hell I was saying. I'm cussing a lot today. I'm going to have to put a warning. I made this also. I have no idea what I was feeling. Oh, they all got on the bus and I stayed. Okay, it was about my scarf. I might have to give it back. Look at this, how pretty. It's very long. I wonder if it was something that belonged to a priest or something, because it's very long. It comes almost to the floor on me, and I'm like 5'7". But right before I left, I walked in and all the fabric was still in there. I said, y'all, can I take one more piece? Because I saw this beautiful, it's just stunning. Can I take one more thing? And she said, of course you can. put a bucket in your car. And I just picked this up. It was folded on top of one of the things. And she said, oh, that's a scarf. I was putting it around my neck. I said, yes, it is, and I am not cutting that up. It was full of grease. I feel like it had been run over. It had like car grease on it, I think. I had to take it home, and, you know, I've washed it by hand a couple times. It still has some grease on it, some black grease. I'm going to get a little toothbrush and some stain cleaner, and I'm going to wash it one more time. But I wore it today because I felt like, again, before I left, I felt like it actually looks like something a priest would wear around their shoulders. I don't know what those things are called, but I felt like that was a little kiss from God. But listen, all you people that were there, if somebody dropped this on the way out, send me word. Send me word, and I will send it to you if it's yours and you want it back. I will certainly send it to you. Anyway, I did work on this piece. I did this little piece of, I call that rice. I don't know what that stitch is called. And I have this pinned right here because I do want to hook that word on. Sew it on, stitch it on. Anyway, that's all. This has been really long. This is the longest video I've ever done. I don't know why in the world I'm still talking at 36 minutes. But if you're still here, please subscribe, like, share, and leave me a comment. Or you can contact me. My email will be in the information below. Getting back to the coronavirus. Really, stay in and sew. Enjoy your babies and your grandbabies. And maybe we could start a group. I am looking for I'm going to do my Simple Abundance. I'm going to do it every day for 30 days because we're all at home for 30 days for sure. And I'm looking for my Artist's Way. If anybody wants to start a private group on Facebook with the Artist's Way, I would be willing to rebuy the books, y'all. I think they're like $25 for the book and the workbook at Amazon. And they could be delivered right to your door. I know I have them here somewhere. But anyway, that's all I have to say. I'm sorry I'm shaking my phone here. Take care. Be well. Be a good neighbor. Pay attention to the things that we're supposed to be doing and do those things. And I will talk to you soon.